Hi there. This is John from John's Record Collection. This one is Esquivel to Fong Fong. Uh, this is John. I'm John with John's Record Collection. So we got another box, another unboxing video. And this is box 10, Esquivel to Fong Fong. So it starts with Esquivel, classic figure in the world of exotica, space age bachelor pad music. Definitely, if you are a fan of that genre, this is a good place to start. And what do I have here? Esquivel. So I have a bunch of Esquivel albums. Infinity in Sound, Volume 2. This was a garage sale purchase, and I think I may have gotten this from a garage sale too. Esquivel, More of Other Worlds, Other Sounds. So Other Worlds, Other Sounds, and the stuff he did in that series, that's probably some of the best stuff he did. So he had, he's, I guess Juan Esquivel is his name. This is, of course, one of his most heralded albums, More Other Worlds, Other Sounds. And this is a one to get because it is a living stereo version of it. So it's one of those 1950s records that takes advantage of the dual stereo channeling that you could do if you had one of those space age hi-fi systems in the early to late 50s. So this is on RCA Living Stereo. So lots of stuff in the RCA Living Stereo series is very sought after, including classical music stuff among classical music collectors. So let's see, I have about 3 Esquivel albums, and this is the SO Steel Band. So I had to get another Steel Band record. Definitely love those Steel Band records, especially when they have Beatles covers or other cover versions I like. Okay. This is a great soft psych sunshine pop band called Eternity's Children. A really great record. Let's see, this one has Mrs. Bluebird on it. Just a really solid sunshine pop psych record. But what you might be, so as far as I know, this is the rarest and most valuable album I have in my entire collection. I got it because some other guy who had it, and I was competitive with him. And I think I got it on eBay a long time ago for $50 or $75. And I'm told on Discogs that this can be worth up to $900. So this is Eternity's Children Timeless. It was on the Capital 6000 series. The Capital 6000 series means it was only available in Canada. So this was it was a second album by a really good soft psych, sunshine pop psych group. There's one really good pro-environmental track on this called Thinking Animal. The Thinking Animal. And but there's some other really good sunshine pop stuff on this record, but it is ridiculously rare. And I had no idea it was so rare or it was going to be so expensive when I got it. It just really shot up in value. So that's a lesson for you. So if you find unusual stuff and you hold on to enough of that unusual stuff for a long period of time, some of that stuff is just going to get really, really valuable with the passage of time. And so anyway, this is eucalyptus. I keep thinking of the word peace. This looks like this record was entirely improvised, not written down or pre-planned in any way. The members of Eucalyptus have all studied in depth the finest classical repertoire, blah, blah, blah. So it's kind of an improvisational avant classical record. I kind of forget what it sounds like. A euphonious whale. I don't know if the cover's all that great. I mean, it's kind of trying to do something psychedelic. It's on Tap Records. I like the record. It has both male and female vocals on it, so it has kind of a late Jefferson Airplane sound to it. I like a lot of psychedelic groups with male and female vocals, so where they combine both men and women singing. So this is one of those groups, a euphonious whale. Okay. Gil Evans Orchestra plays the songs of Jimi Hendrix. So this is a jazz big band orchestra playing Jimi Hendrix songs. So great concept. And what do we have here? Everything is everything. This is a jazz psych record. It has a guy named Jim Pepper on it. Jim Pepper was a Native American jazz musician who was kind of into a lot of psychedelic music, but he was also kind of leading the way to the jazz fusion of the 1970s. I like some of this earlier stuff rather than the more regular jazz, mid-1970s jazz fusion. But maybe I should change my mind about jazz fusion. But anyway, that record's good. Here's everything you need to know to operate a CD radio. So I have this filed under everything because I don't think it has any credited person. But it's a spoken word record about CD radio related to the CD radio craze of the mid-1970s. And let's see, I'm ending these. Oh, Exodo. This is a Mexican group. They have a really weird cover version of Yesterday. A lot of cover versions of the Beatles' Yesterday are actually pretty lame, but this is one that's really weird. And let's see, exotic percussion and brilliant brass. I believe Chino, the exotic percussion guy, pretended to be from Africa, is on this record, even though he's not credited. So if you're looking for that kind of music, but for something that isn't as expensive as the other Chino records, this is a good one to buy. Exotic percussion and brilliant brass. And let's see. Oh, yes. The Exotic Sounds of Love, an adults only record from, I believe, so it's A/S Records. So it was associated with the budget labels Alshire and Somerset, and it's a lot of music with a lot of orgasmic moaning, heavy breathing from the 70s, and it's the cover's very suggestive. Like she's not wearing any top, but it cuts off here before you can see anything, and so. The Exotic Sounds of Love. And this looks interesting. So this is Exploring Music Recordings. I think I got this out of a warehouse sale for maybe like 50 cents from a warehouse sale for the half-price books used book chain. And this it's a record that was kind of sort of a miscellaneous anthology that was used to expose kids to different kinds of music when they were in their elementary school music classes. And so some of these records are very interesting because they're very eclectic and have a little bit of everything. And oh, this is a great record. Extended Voices. So this record has some amazing heavy hitters of the avant-garde classical world of the 1960s and 1970s. So it has Robert Ashley, John Cage, Gordon Muma, Morton Feldman. You may not have heard of these people, but you need to look up their names because they're really solid people. Christian Wolf, Toshiichi Inagi, Alvin Lucier, Pauline Oliveros. This one has a lot of voices altered by synthesizers and vocoders and things like this. So this is a very amazing electronic experimental record, and I highly recommend it. And here's a guy I like, Exuma. Exuma was kind of a guy who I don't even know what his real name was, but he had, like, nobody really made music like him. He kind of tried to make music that sounded like he was some sort of voodoo priest, and he was actually briefly popular for, at least in terms of being an album act. He wasn't like a top 40 guy, but he actually sold some records. So he wasn't that rare, but Exuma. And so this guy has a lot of really crazy voodoo pounding drum sounding music. So Exuma and The Eyes of Blue, Crossroads of Time. This is a very nice psychedelic record. This is one of two copies I've had in the course of my life. There's a very nice cover version of Love's 7 and 7 Is in it. Country Style. So this is the Fabulous Beats Go Country Style. I'm not exactly sure. Oh, the Fabulous Beats. So it's under F-A-B. So that's why it's in the order it is in alphabetically. The Fabulous Beats Go Country Style. So this is another one of those Beatles gimmick records, these Beatles cash-in records, but evidently they're country and western. So they're Beatles, so it's a bunch of guys in Beatle wigs, but they're trying to look like they're country and western cowboys or something. So that's a lot of the ways they used to sell records in the 60s. Take one concept that you're cashing in on, take another concept you're cashing in on, and just completely smash it together with no rhyme or reason. And a lot of great records, at least in my opinion, were made that way. This is a guy, Myron Fagan, Red Stars Over Hollywood. This is a super right-wing dude. He's like anti-Semitic and conspiratorial. He would probably be QAnon if he were alive today. But this is the guy talking about all the guys in Hollywood who are communists. I mean, he calls the Three Stooges communists. Come on. I mean, the Three Stooges are an American institution. I mean, chill out, dude. But anyway, yeah, it's crazy pants. If you want a spoken word record that is totally crazy pants, that fits no. But this, oh my goodness, this is one of the rarest, most beautiful records in my collection. Introspection, a Faine Jade Recital. And I think there's water damage on the cover, but you can barely tell. And it is an absolutely amazing record. It is one of my most favorite. I mean, in addition to being very rare, it is just a record I love a great deal. It is from a guy in upstate New York who called himself Faine Jade, and he had a backup band called the Bohemian Vendetta, I don't think he even did drugs. He was just a guy with a very weird idiosyncratic sensibility. He was like, he was almost like Syd Barrett, Syd Barrett of Pink Floyd in writing songs. If Syd Barrett hadn't, wasted his mind on acid. So evidently, this guy was kind of like a Syd Barrett who didn't need LSD to write something weird. And it's really good stuff. And it's not hard, it's not soft, it's just pure psychedelic, and every track's a winner. No killer, no filter. No filter. killer, no filler. But that is this. So this is a record I feel very privileged. Let's just say that. I probably won't sell it unless it's in the estate sale. I won't sell it until over my dead body. So this one, Merrily Fair, Confessions of Love. This isn't orgasmic moaning. This is more romantic than erotic or raunchy. But it's a woman mainly reciting love poems with orchestral backing. And let's see, Marianne Faithfull. Mick Jagger's. This is before Marianne Faithfull smoked all those cigarettes and did all that heroin. So she has more of her little girl voice and not the voice that she has now. But Marianne Faithfull, and this is one I bought off a guy in Oakland, California, back when I was living in the San Francisco Bay Area. So I got a lot of great psychedelic records at that time when I was living there. The Fallen Angels. So this is the first album by a really good group called The Fallen Angels. There's a second album they did, which is ridiculously rare, called It's a Long Way Down. Unfortunately, I do not have that album because it is so ridiculously rare. But this first one isn't as rare, but it's good. Although I'm told the second one is just mind-blowing. And this is a good one. I probably got this for 50 cents at like a library sale or something like that. So it's Jerry Falwell. It's Jerry Falwell, and it's Feudin', Fussin', and Frettin'. And it has this amazing anti-evolution song called The Monkey Song, where, I'm no kin of the monkey, no. And it's sung by Robin and Crystal Bernard, which is kind of funny. Crystal Bernard eventually became an actress. She was on some of the last seasons of Happy Days. She was a cast member of that show, Wings. Wings was that show that was on in the 1990s that nobody knew why it was on, but it turned out to be on for 8 seasons. I have no idea why that show kept on. But anyway, so this is Jerry Falwell and some really crazy songs on this. It's actually it's in the form of an envelope, because the record itself was sent through the mail without any extra packaging. So it was basically sent to look like an envelope, so you could take it out of the top of the envelope. It's really weird. This one I got The Family. It's not very rare. I got it cheap. But The Family is the band that was associated with Prince that did the original version of Nothing Compares to You, which was later a #1 hit for Sinead O'Connor. So they did the original version of it. This is another band with. So this is The Family of Apostolic. It is on the Vanguard label. So the Vanguard label was a folk label, but they have a lot of interesting, obscure psychedelic acts on it. So worth checking out. And let's see. Oh, here's a good one. The Family Tree. This is a relatively rare sunshine pop record out of Hawaii. It's called Watch What Happens. And just an amazing sunshine pop record. Very hard to find. It took me at least over a year to track a copy of it down on the internet. But I'm glad I went through the effort to track it down. And oh yes. Now these can be some relatively cheap folk records that you can find. You can still find them. Mimi and Richard Farina, Celebrations for a Gray Day. Richard Farina was a really cool guy. He wrote a novel called It's Been Down So Long It Looks Like Up to Me, but unfortunately he died of a motorcycle accident relatively young, before much of his promise could be fulfilled. But in addition to being a novelist, he was also a good folk singer, and he was married to Mimi Farina, who was she was Mimi Baez, so she was the sister of Joan Baez. So Richard Farina was the brother-in-law of Joan Baez, but this is really good folk music in the folk rock period, and so Mimi and Richard Farina, I actually like it better than the Joan Baez stuff. But the records are not actually that hard to find these days. So this is another Richard and Richard Farina record, Reflections on a Crystal Wind. So not very hard to find. Go check them out. Go look for them and get them. And okay, so this is where I like the bird sounds. This is so Jim Fassett, Symphony of the Birds. So this is music that is created from tape recordings of bird calls that are manipulated to sound like other instruments and sound, but I mean, they never get it to actually sound like a regular instrument. So it has a unique sound, but basically they make music out of bird calls, and it's absolutely amazing. I've had a bunch of copies of this over the years, and when I found it, I basically like to evangelize about this record. So when I find extra copies of it, I try to get it into the hands of other people so they get something cool. And that. This is just another good, unpretentious, like circa 1970s hard rock band. Cool. I mean, sometimes you don't need much more than that. You just need some hard rocking, tasty bits. Dee Favreau. So this one is unusual because it is on the RSVP label. The RSVP label was the label for the very rare Faine Jade Introspection of Faine Jade Recital, that very rare record. But this one, RSVP Dee Favreau, and it is, she is also on the RSVP record. She's kind of a jazz, she kind of does jazz vocal singing, but it's psychedelic. And there's this amazing track on here called Rainbow Colors, where she talks about how much she's a rainbow and she's many different colors, and the person she loves is many different colors coming together into a rainbow. So it's very interesting, jazzy vocal psych, and it's a record that I think, RSVP, there weren't a lot of records made on this label. So it's probably pretty rare, but it's not as expensive as that other stuff on the label. But if you could ever if you are one of the lucky bastards to find this record, please do reach out and get it. Dee Favreau, Rebirth of Wonder is the name of the record. And Fear Itself. So this is kind of a psychedelic music with kind of a bluesy Janis Joplin feel. Has a very solid female vocalist named Ellen McIlwain. It's called Fear Itself. One of the notable things about this record is it has a version of the folk song In My Time of Dying that was an adaptation of that song before Led Zeppelin did a version of that song. So, good record to have. And the Feelies. So the Feelies are a 1980s alternative group. Definitely a group you should know if you want to get into 80s alternative music. And let's see. Oh, this is Victor Feldman, the Venezuela Joropo. Now, it's a relatively cheap record because not a lot of people are chasing it right now. but I think it's underrated. It happens to have a guy on it that I always look for on records. So it has a session percussionist by the name of Emil Richards. And Emil Richards is just this amazing percussion guy that I will almost buy. Basically, I have what I call the Emil Richards rule. The Emil Richards rule is if a record has Emil Richards on it, it does not suck. And so this has kind of a Latin American exotica vibe. So they're trying to, I guess, do like Indian music with the pan flutes and all that type of stuff. And but it's got it's got Emil Richards on it. So this guy, Emil Richards, he was a weird, cool dude, and he made almost all the records he was on really cool. Okay, this is a percussion record. It's called the Clinician Series, Saul Feldstein Percussion. So it's mainly percussion compositions. I like percussion only compositions. Julie Felix. She's bigger in the UK, but she's a good vocalist to check out. Yeah. So here we have the Feminine Complex. The Feminine Complex, an amazing all-female psychedelic band. It's a little different than a lot of standard psych. They have a bit of a cult following, even among people who don't necessarily like psychedelic music that much, because their songs are a bit on the moody side. Like they're kind of a moody minor key feel to them. And they're just I've heard them compared to Nancy Sinatra, or Nancy Sinatra meets the Standells. I've heard them. They sometimes have a kind of jazz ballady feel to them. So definitely a group to check out. And now here, okay, this is a treat for you, Exotica Space Age Bachelor Pad music fans. I have Ferrante and Teicher. So Ferrante and Teicher, most of their records are pretty boring, easy listening stuff. But in the 50s, they did prepared piano. So prepared piano is normally a kind of avant-garde thing, like associated with the John Cage. So prepared piano is where you take a grand piano where the strings of the piano are exposed, and the strings and coils of the piano are exposed, and you insert stuff into it to make the piano sound different. And that's what Ferrante and Teicher did on a bunch of records in the mid-50s and 1960s. So the ones that they do the prepared piano stuff are the ones to get. So Blast Off, that's one of them. And so I'm telling you the ones to get from Ferrante and Teicher. So Blast Off. And there is Adventuring Carols, Ferrante and Teicher. So this is their Christmas record, Christmas prepared piano, and I love to put this on at Christmas time. It is a very sprightly, upbeat Christmas record. Really puts you in the Christmas spirit. And dynamic twin pianos. That's another one of the prepared piano records. And Ferrante and Teicher with percussion. Another one to get. And this one. Now, this is probably my favorite one of theirs. Heavenly Sounds in Hi-Fi. So they were going for kind of an otherworldly sound with this record, and they kind of achieved it with that. And because it's associated with sort of the outer space age fad of the late 1950s and early 60s, it has a lot of songs associated with stars and moons. So it has Out of This World, Out of Nowhere, Beyond the Moon, I've Told Every Little Star, The Moon Is Love. So every song is like an instrumental cover version of every song is an instrumental cover version of a song with the word moon or star in the title. But you'd think that'd get cute after a while, but it is actually very beautiful and otherworldly sounding. And here's another one. Here's another one of their prepared piano works, High Fireworks. So that's another one of theirs. And so I have a bunch of Ferrante and Teicher records. And another one of theirs, Sound Blast, The Sound of Tomorrow Today. So I have more records by them than I thought I did. I think I have more records. I might have more records than I do with Bachelor. Oh, yes. Soundproof. So this is another version of the Sound of Tomorrow Today. And let's see, where do we go from here? So that's all the Ferrante and Teicher records I have. The Fevers. This is a Brazilian record, and it has a cover version of Lady Madonna on it. I think it might actually be in Portuguese. It's cool for that reason. Magnificent Multiplication. So this is a record by a woman named Chip Fields, and the reason I find it interesting is that her daughter is Kim Fields, who was Tootie on The Facts of Life, and you can see Tootie in one of the pictures on the back cover. But it is basically trying to be a sort of funky multiplication rock record, and so it's one of those 70s educational records that I like to vibe to. Okay, this is a Mexican record, Fiesta Hippie. So I don't even think there was an actual rock concert. I think they just faked a rock concert and brought in a bunch of bands into a recording studio, but it looks like one, and I like the psychedelic cover, and it has some Spanish language cover versions of psychedelic songs that were top 40 hits in the US, so I like that sort of thing. And the Fifth Avenue Buses, this one's a bit harder to find, but it has some really good surf rock style instrumentals. I think it has a Batman style instrumental on it. So if you like the mid-60s pre-psychedelic, guitar instrumentals, that's good stuff. And this is one of my favorite records of all time. 50-Foot Hose, Cauldron. So this is a psychedelic record, but it is heavily electronic. So a lot of hippies were on this pastoral folk music trip. These guys were very much futuristic, electronic, all the way people. And this record is incredibly ahead of its time. There's almost psychedelic with almost some textures that are reminiscent of industrial music that came maybe 20 years later, and it is a very interesting record, very swirly, mind-altering psychedelic record. And file number 733, UFO. This is one of those records where it's kind of just what it says on the tin. So if you like the cover, you know what you're in for. And let's see. The Happening by Fire and Ice Limited. This is a very early psychedelic record. I'm still trying to track down information about the group Fire and Ice Limited. They were very short-lived. They were mainly active in 1965, 1966, and I think they accompanied one of the LSD documentary records I had pulled out of one of my boxes earlier. And what else do we have? Oh, this is one of my favorite exploitation psychedelic records, Psychsploitation, Light My Fire by the Firebirds. So it's a lot of distorted Jimi Hendrix-esque guitar, and it has a great cover on the front with a woman in this red velvet dress, and the guitars just rock very hard. And this is a handbell choir. So this is First United Methodist Church Concert Handbell Choir. And it has a cover version of the Beatles' Yesterday, but it's played on handbells. So I think it's the only Beatles cover I have that is actually played on handbells. So I thought that was pretty cool. And The Cold Cathedral by John Fisher. This is a kind of folk psych Christian record. And this is a novelty record from the Zappa era, An Evening with Wild Man Fisher. This guy, yeah, he had some mental problems. And I have some other Wild Man Fisher records, Wild Mania. The guys in Rhino Records rediscovered him back in the day. And, this is Omen, William S. Fisher. So this is a Moog jazzy kind of record. And this is Elliot Fisher. So this is kind of a subgenre they call spy jazz. I don't know if it's really jazz, but it's kind of jazzy, big band stuff that leans very heavily on spy movie themes and trying to create an atmosphere where you feel like you're a secret agent on some mission. And so it borrows a lot from spy movie themes. And so this one's called Bang Bang Bang, Thunderball, and Other Secret Agent Themes by Elliot Fisher. And this is a later record by Elliot Fisher, In the Land of Make Believe. I bought it because it has a cover version of Eleanor Rigby. But what's really good about it is they have a version of the song Money. Money, 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 money. So it's where this like 60s space age bachelor pad guy decides to get funky for the 70s. So it's cool on that level. Miniatures by Morgan Fisher. So this is 51 songs that are all about 1 minute long or less. So this is an experimental record. And Fisher and Marx, It's a Beatle World. So this is a comedy record that two old school comedy guys did riffing on the Beatles. And The Five Stair Steps in QB. This is I just got this because it's a nice, smooth soul record. Like if you want to slow dance with your wife to it, it's very nice. It's very sweet. So Five Stair Steps in QB. They did. They're best known for the song "Ooh Child." This doesn't have a hit on it, but it's a good one. It's a good one. And Flamin' Groovies. So the Flamin' Groovies are a band from San Francisco. They were there during the psychedelic period, but they kind of resisted all of the psychedelic fashions of the day and were kind of more in a Rolling Stonesy 70s power pop trip. And they just, they rock pretty good, And, they deserve credit for staying true to their principles. But actually, they're kind of an anti-psych band almost. They just have just good old rock and roll. And this one, Flat Earth Society, Waliko. So this was a garage psych band out of, I guess, the suburbs of Boston, Massachusetts. And it's called Waliko because there was a candy bar company called Waliko, and you could only get copies of this record by sending in wrappers of Waliko candy bars. So it's a very hard to find record, but it's a very good garage psych record. And I am lucky to have it. And this is great. This one. So this is really hard, melt your face off music. A friend of mine called it Japanese fro metal. So Flower Traveling Band. They were a band of Japanese musicians, and it's like screaming like a banshee, kabuki, Black Sabbath metal, and it's amazing. If you're not afraid of something hard and psychedelic and acid fried and melt your face off, you'll definitely like Flower Traveling Band. And let's see. This is an interesting one that I found. I don't know if I found it digging or if I found it on the internet, but it's called Folk Instruments of the World. Sometimes I just like to hear lots of different kinds of weird and eclectic instruments. And so this is a spoken word record that demonstrates many, many different kinds of instruments. And this is, so I like the raga inflected psychedelic pop of the 1966, 1967 era. This is one of the better records in that genre. The Folk Swingers, raga rock. They have some really great covers on here. So they have Norwegian Wood, The Birds 8 Miles High. They even have a cover of the Turtles' Grim Reaper of Love. I don't think I've ever seen another cover of Grim Reaper of Love, but they have it here. So it's a killer record if you can find a copy. And what else is in the box? Follow Me, which is a kind of a surf movie, which had some interesting psych sounds on the soundtrack. There's actually some interesting connections between the surf rock world of the pre-Beatles era and later psychedelic music, if you go looking for the connections. And, so this one is Follow the Clouds. It's on the label Melody House, which was a very common children's record label. So this is almost like a new age relaxation record for kids. So there's very few records that are like this on a conceptual level. And then this is the rhythm. So here we are at the end of the box. Fong Fong, The Rhythm of Fong Fong, by Shao Fong Fong, and it has one. It does have a Beatles song on it, and it's mostly sung in Chinese, and it's got a bunch of other Chinese cover versions of Western songs. I think she was out of Singapore. Most of the Chinese stuff from the 1960s, a lot of it came out of Singapore. I guess they were going for a market of a lot of guys that were stationed who might go to a place like Singapore or Korea on their R&R when they didn't have to be in Vietnam. So that's, there you have it, Fong Fong at the end of the box. So that's box number 10. So I hope you like this unboxing video.